We're talking about social programs or church welfare programs, in essence, right? This is all part of that.
Yeah.
So there's actually elements of this that are already in place and already exist and are already functioning. And we just, if you take that kind of false notion of utopia as what you're expecting Zion to be, you might not be even noticing that these things are already being put into place.
Right.
This framework's there. Because like having no poor among you, that doesn't mean everyone's going to there's going to be a forced system where everyone is equal. No, there's still going to be differences. There's still going to be those who have greater talents than others, those who produce more than others. There will be bigger and smaller families and different needs among people.
Yeah.
So what we're saying is you won't have people dying on the streets. You won't have people dying of starvation. Like there will not be people that are suffering because they don't have their basic needs met.
Well, and it will really be, the goal really is the inverse of that, where what you will have is people who are able to achieve and obtain the greatest light and knowledge they're currently capable of achieving, because so many of these temporal hindrances and roadblocks will be done away with. And that doesn't mean everybody right now will achieve or obtain the same light, the same truth, the same understanding. But what it does mean is whatever an individual's maximum ability is at their current state of being, they have the opportunity now to achieve that, to obtain that. And that will be different from people. So there will always be those differences, but that's not the point of the gospel. The point of the gospel is that everyone's able to continue to move and progress according to the speed in which they're able to do it. And today in Babylon, there's so many barriers to preventing people from moving forward. Just the world constantly gets in the way. And what we're hoping to achieve in Zion is, hey, let's remove all those barriers and now run as fast as you can run, progress as fast as you can progress. And some will do it quicker and better, and some will do it, but might take them a little longer, might be a little slower about it.
Well, we'll probably talk about this a little more when we get into the law of consecration slides. But that's the whole point is if you're having to worry about where, am I going to have shelter?
Yeah.
Am I going to have food?
Can I pay for my housing?
Very hard to focus on your spiritual progress.
Yeah.
But if your basic needs are covered, if you have a safety blanket, you can start investing in yourself more.
Yeah.
Spiritually and temporally. Right? And I think that's really that safety net of Zion, or the Zion as like the goal of taking care of the poor and needy. It's really focused first and foremost on making sure people have their basic needs met, and that you don't have just people going through that very just carnal suffering, right? That the elements impose upon us when we're helpless.
Yeah.
Or even society, Babylon itself, right? Doesn't care in the slightest if we're suffering.
If we rise or fall, yeah.
So Zion, right? We have Zion individuals, but Zion is also going to be an organized institution or a city or cities, right? There is going to be a center place, which we know is Missouri, Independence, Missouri. A lot of people like to think it's Salt Lake.
Leave comments below.
Salt Lake's just a temporary center. Okay. It is a good model.
Yeah.
Right, of what is to come. But
Brigham did the best he could once he got there. Yeah.
He used the plans. He used the same principles. But we know Independence is going to be built up, and I'm sure the church is silently just buying the entire city of Independence. I hope.
Under Synod.
I have no surety of that,
Yeah.
but I secretly hope that's what's happening. So there's a center place. There is Zion, the capital. And of course, at the center will be the church administration buildings, what they referred to as temples. But that was pre-Nauvoo. So when they're talking about temples, the language, the vocabulary of the restored church has not quite been fully established. They were definitely talking about administration buildings, priesthood administration buildings. I'm sure there could be modern endowment style temples as well.
Of course, yeah.
So you have a center, a church administration, right? A holy place for priesthood or governmental administration. And then you have the stakes of Zion, which are kind of the cities that spring forth from that.
Yeah.
And of course, this is the model we see the church having today, where we have a we have Salt Lake, we have the stake centers throughout the world, and they're all, right, the law, the policy of the church is coming from a central source. So we already start seeing that if you examine the organization of the church, you already start seeing, well, it actually is a kingdom. It is a political entity, an organized society, entity, government that is already in place and functioning.
Yeah.
And of course, the purpose of the church is to build back the pure patriarchal order of righteous families, of righteous patriarchs, patriarch and matriarch, kings and queens, right, essentially. Members of the church that can take the principles of Zion, the higher laws, apply them in their homes, and then sanctify the earth through
that way. Yeah.
Right, through righteous posterity and growing righteousness throughout the earth by our own influence.
We had a bullet point here in regards to ongoing restoration required to fully build this. And my thought behind that was actually when President Nelson has alluded to and talked about, kind of these further revelations, these greater manifestations of the Lord, I really feel like a lot of what we will receive moving forward, and maybe we should think about it even more now, the stuff that he's revealing, stuff that he's changing now. I really believe that a lot of the revelations that President Nelson and probably his the ones that will come after him will be revealing, will be intentionally designed to really orient us towards building Zion personally and individually. I think there will be a lot more revelation specific to how do we better, more effectively, more efficiently start building Zion in our homes so that ultimately Zion can be built physically and in preparation for the Savior's return.
When and that's the bottom up approach.
Yeah.
Right. Zion's not going to be built from the church. The church is helping us build Zion by turning us into Zion individuals.
Correct.
And making, right. The church can only build so many temples, but if every member of the church, if their home is a temple,
changes things.
That changes things.
Yeah.
Right. And, part of that, obviously there's been an emphasis away from the church and into the home with eliminating the third hour with the Come Follow Me program. This is all pushing towards a home-centered church home-centered religion supported by the church.
Mm-hmm.
And then we definitely are seeing an emphasis in understanding about the priesthood from more of a patriarchal perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And we just had the Relief Society conference, and they talked quite a bit about that, about helping women understand their priesthood and their role in the priesthood. And like President Nelson, he's really trying to take away a lot of misconceptions about women having like a lack of priesthood and how that's completely wrong. Mm-hmm. That's not in line with the gospel, that anyone who goes to the temple, they should understand like men and women are equal participants and partakers of patriarchal priesthood. Mm-hmm. They receive the same keys, right? The same blessings. They enter into the same covenants, right? They're all equally Zion, citizens of Zion through living and fulfilling their covenants. And husband and wife are co-equal in their home.
Yeah.
In the operations and government of their home, and in the raising of their children and their posterity, and the law that they administer in their home unto their posterity. So we can really start seeing that he's going this direction, that priesthood, right? The church is all about restoring patriarchal priesthood, the patriarchal order, which all happens through our homes.
Yeah.
Like that's what we saw with Adam to Noah, and Noah to Abraham, and of course Abraham's the great example of the fullness of those patriarchal blessings.
Well, and if you have ears to hear and eyes to see, what President Nelson is trying to get people to understand is that women, the sisters in Zion, women in the church, have as significant of a role in building this and accomplishing this, and the power and authority they have as the men do. And I think because of tradition because of culture, because the way we've said things, the way we've discussed things, it has certainly made people feel like...
Well, the church was influenced a lot by 1800s culture.
Well, of course.
1800s United States culture of the day.
Yep.
And that has lingered.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of culture that has become mixed in with doctrine. The church has been slowly pulling that back out and say, let's get back to pure principles.
Right.
And that's, I think President Nelson's probably been the king of that.
And we did a Gospel Mysteries podcast on this, on women and the priesthood, and we talked about offices in the priesthood and keys